Welcome to the Time to Grow podcast. We take you behind the scenes of the rapidly growing natural products industry. Join Kyle on his journey as he chats with retail buyers, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, and so much more. This is Time to Grow. And here's your host, Kyle Marsham.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Time to Grow podcast. We have another special guest with us, Beckie Prime of Beck's Broth. What really excited me about this episode was the innovation that she's bringing to the CPG natural product space. She's combining two really fun categories, two fun products, the sensory, the excitement of cacao with, the health and the nutritional benefits of bone broth. So I'm super excited to dive into, what she's done to bring this brand to market and kind of everything in between. She has kind of a unique background coming from a section of CPG, navigating that into studying health and becoming a registered holistic nutritionist. Welcome to the show, Beckie. I'm happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is a full circle moment because, like I was telling you earlier, your podcast is one of my favorite in the industry. So
wow, that means
I feel lucky to be sitting in this
Yeah,
seat.
No, that means so much. Thank you. It's definitely a passion, hobby. It's someone emailed me the other day and said thank you for doing it. It was someone that I really admire. So it's like just you saying that makes me energetic to keep doing it. So I really appreciate it.
It's fantastic.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the product and what your maybe last 18 months have been like, and then we'll get into some of the juicy historical stuff.
Yeah, so we have taken your favorite everyday beverages and we have given them the infusion of pasture-raised bone broth. So right now we have two products. So we have our bone broth hot chocolate and then our bone broth coffee. So both have 14 to 15 grams of protein in them and just very simple, easy ingredients. So they're shelf stable. They come in individual packets. So the last 18 months has been a pretty crazy journey. So I founded the business back in November of 2021, but we were packaging our product in glass jars. So I was in the kitchen for over 20 hours a week, making all the bone broth, packaging it in glass jars. And my goal was to really sell it retail. And I realized, okay, bone broth has a short lifespan. I'm going to have to put everything in the freezer, and then trying to sell frozen glass into a retailer was a nightmare, as I'm sure you can imagine. So that's when I realized that we really would need to innovate the product further if we wanted to grow and scale in the retail world. So that is what we did.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was attending a conference this week discussing plant-based foods. So generally, plant-based foods have shorter shelf life than everything else. And one of the retailers, it was actually cool. They had Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro sitting on a retail panel. Like, that's unheard of, right? And one of them says, the one thing that we need in multiple categories is transitioning those products to shelf stable, right? There's not a lot of options. I think there's one other brand I can think of that's in a ready to drink that's more shelf stable in the bone broth space. But I think what you've done is really, really smart, and I think the retailers will engage with it, which is at the end of the day super important.
It's a lot easier to sell into retail now. I feel like all of the retails that I was in prior to transitioning over into this powder really were like, make this a powdered product. It's going to be so much easier to get into our shelves. Like once it's shelf stable, give us a call. Yeah. So
yeah, it's you're so restricted by shelf space if you're not, right? Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. You have a little bit of a background with package design and marketing. Can you talk about that piece of it? Because that was I didn't know that when you came in, so I was like, oh wow, that a lot of the stars aligned when you said that. So if you can get into that'd be great.
Yeah, such a special time in my life. So I was 19. I never went to post-secondary school after college, after high school. And I applied to the Central Group, which is a performance at retail company down in Mississauga. I applied to become their receptionist. And so I was a receptionist for 1 year. Loved being in that office setting, making all these connections, greeting everybody. Like I just felt like their cheerleader every day, and I loved it. So then after 1 year being receptionist there, my bad. I moved on to the project manager team. So I was working with our structural designers, our graphic designers, the marketing departments of all of these big brands like L'Oreal and Mars and Nestle. So it was just really interesting to see how the back end worked when it came to like a consumer packaged good product. So I did that for about 8 years and just learned so much over the course of that time, and never knew I was going to start my own CPG business. So that's pretty exciting, but definitely it helped me get there.
Yeah, it's funny. Once you get like a little bit of a taste of, grocery on the back end of things, like your mind changes when you go actually do groceries. It's like, oh, that's a nice display. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, wow, I work on that brand. Now it's like I find one on, like, my whole phone is end caps and photos of competition.
I often come home from the grocery store, not getting the groceries, but I have 10 new photos in my phone being like, wow. Or like I have this wall at my house. Where
Damn,
I
forgot milk.
Yeah, all the time. It's like I was distracted by all these new fun items that are on the shelves. And I just like, that's what I gravitate towards. And it's like, no, I actually need to get my groceries. So I was actually just listening to your podcast with Sherry Evans the other week. And you guys talked about this as well. Yeah. And I was saying, they're like, yes, finally, like it's not just me. Other people do this too. So I
can't do groceries with my wife.
Yeah.
She'll be like, Kyle, where are you?
Let's go.
I'm like, I'm like taking pictures of people and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's a problem. Never a problem. But so you started kind of at the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. And then you were very intrigued and you picked up on a lot of things, and then you became project manager. Mm-hmm. What did you learn at that job about what it takes or what's involved with execution? Because when you think about the brands that you were working with, mm-hmm. right? And then you go to the store, you see the footprint, like there's a lot of work from, idea to execution to, building a multi-million-dollar, like, massive company like L'Oreal or some of those other brands, right? What did you learn about, I guess CPG execution?
It really takes a team. It takes a village to really pull off executions like that. So you have your designer, your structural designer, all of these people from the customer's standpoints, like their marketing, like we need to obviously make sure that we have the same goal in mind. So trying to do it on my own is a little bit difficult now because I realize the importance of a really great team. Mm-hmm. But being a project manager, it really helped me understand the process. I could see point A and I could see like point D, and that's where we needed to end up. And I knew that in between we needed to follow like a timeline, or we needed to really understand like what came next. So I'm really good at putting those types of puzzles together. Which is a really important skill that I am just obsessed with now. I love process. I never thought I would. But it just feels so good to finally like one step of the journey, you check that box, and then you can move on to the next step. So yeah, definitely working with a really educated team that you can just jive with, that understands your mission, is so important. Which I've been lucky to meet a lot of people along the way that we've hired like for contract positions that have been able to see my vision and help me get there, which has been really exciting. So.
Yeah, I think that's like what you said. There was like something every early stage founder, almost in any industry, not just food, has to understand, right? There's a starting point, mm-hmm. and you need to have that vision of what the end looks like, and those small milestones that you have to hit, right? Like, okay, we need to, at first you need to figure out your ingredients and your cogs and mm-hmm. all of that stuff, and packaging, and some of it, obviously, it intertwines, but having that vision and that project management lens is critical. And
there's so many things out there. Like you almost need to have your blinders on and stay focused on the goal, because there's so many shiny things everywhere where it's like, oh, like I have a short attention span, I'm looking here now. And it's like, no, keep your eye on the prize. Like you have something to do, and then it'll pay off later, because then you can explore this bright, shiny object over there. So there's so much going on, but you just need to make sure that like your eyes are on the prize and kind of staying true to that goal. It's so easy to get distracted in this industry because it is so much fun, which I'm sure you know.
Well, and then also, understanding that things don't happen overnight. Okay, this is my 1 year goal, 2 year, 5 year, or whatever. We were talking about this with a group of people the other day, and it's just like, what social media platform should you optimize? Or,
right.
What am I supposed to be communicating on LinkedIn? And then like, one of the brands that was involved in the conversation didn't even have like their product ready to launch, right? Mm-hmm. And they're already like thinking 10 steps ahead without getting grounded in the foundational stuff. Yeah. So I love that you're thinking like that this early, because could get you in trouble.
Yeah, and that's the one thing where we don't want to get in trouble with what we're doing. So that was like the biggest thing, that like every step of the way we're making sure that we're doing the work right. Because like, I mean, like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We experienced that like early on with certain things, and it's like, no, like do the time, put in the investment, make sure the job is done well first, so you don't need to redo it, because that's where you just waste so much time and money. So we try and do everything the right way. No cutting corners.
I've done that a little bit with building my marketing agency and our software company, right? You get so excited and you just like, oh, I need to do this. And then it's like, no, stop it.
Yeah.
Like you have to yell at yourself sometimes. But you know, 2020 happened, you know, we all know, I'm not even going to say the word because it comes up too often, but you started to become very passionate about nutrition and health, and you went down a little bit of a health journey, educating yourself. Can you talk about that and how that transpired into Beck's Broth?
Yeah, so we were able to work from home. So before I was always in the office in Mississauga, like 5 days a week. And then, of course, everybody was able to transition and work from home part of the week. And that's when I decided, like, you know what, like, I think now is my time to go to school to become a holistic nutritionist. I've always been interested in nutrition since I was a teenager. And I always felt like I never really felt validated because I didn't have that degree, or sometimes it was kind of like, oh, I'm speaking about this, but is this really true? So my intuition just was really like, you need to go to school now more than ever, especially because even if you don't work in the field as like a nutritionist one day, like your friends and family are going to benefit over the knowledge that you have in the health world. It is so important. So I decided to, and I was so grateful that my company that I was working with, they allowed me to go down to part-time. So I worked with them for 7 years, and I said, hey, I want to go to school. It's not within the realm or the industry that my work was involved in, but they still let me go down to part-time because they really see that I wanted that. So I did that for 1 year, got my degree as a registered holistic nutritionist. And then a month after I graduated, I already had my clients, and I was working with probably about like 6 to 10 people at once. And I was always recommending bone broth. So as a nutritionist, I decided that I really wanted to focus on gut health and digestion, because whenever anybody is sick, that's the first place a nutritionist looks. We need to make sure that your gut is working well before we fix any other issues, because it often always ties back there. So I was focusing on gut health. So in my client protocols, I was always recommending bone broth because it's just so easy for the body to digest and it's so nourishing. So I was recommending bone broth, and then nobody was following their protocols. Nobody was drinking their bone broth. So I was like, you're not drinking your bone broth, and you're still spending $10 at Starbucks a day. And we really want to try and get rid of all those artificial sweeteners in the coffees and beverages that you're drinking. So honestly, it was just through a meditation one day where it was like, I just heard this whisper, and it was like, make bone broth taste like chocolate. And I was like, what? So I got up so fast, and I had bone broth on the stove already, and I had cacao and honey in my cupboard, and I mixed it. Yeah. So I made it, and I called my husband. I was like, that's it. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is my next venture. I just felt so sure of myself. Like there wasn't an ounce of doubt in my body. It was like, I'm going to create this brand. So very fun story on how we got here.
I love that. So how did the first one taste?
I loved it. I'm always a fan of different types of health food. So I feel like I have a very wide palette. I have this one video that I will save on my phone forever. I made sure that I backed it up, but it was the first time I ever introduced this beverage to one of my friends. So my husband already tried it. He liked it, or he was lying to me. But I have this video of my friend trying it, and we're all sitting on the ground. I said, you have to try this because I'm starting a business. Like, I already know it. She tried it, and she almost threw up everywhere. She's like, this is not for me. And I'm like,
really?
Okay. So at that time, we were using chicken broth, so it was a bit more fatty. So we definitely perfected the formula since then. But looking back on it now, it makes me laugh so hard, and I'm so grateful I didn't get discouraged by her reaction, because that almost would have been enough for anybody to be like, you know what, we're shutting this venture down. Like, I don't have the thick skin to deal with like that type of feedback. But I just thought it was funny, and then we moved forward and really nailed down the recipe.
That's awesome. What have you learned since, I guess, was that your first CHFA when we met?
Yes. Yeah.
So what have you learned since then?
Oh my goodness. It has been such a wild year. It's hard to believe that that September was like pretty much less than a year ago and 6 months ago, or however long it's been. But really just like networking is everything. And I feel like that's something that Rob Rathke taught me very early in this career. So I still met him when I was doing like packaging our product in glass jars. And he was the last person I saw at this trade show back in, was it through Innovation Guelph? It was back up in Guelph. It was a smaller trade show. And I was introduced to him at the end. And he just said, like, you need to get on LinkedIn. Like, you need to build your network. And I'm thinking, oh no, like I have my social media there. Like I'm reaching my customers. Like I don't need to be on LinkedIn. He's like, get on LinkedIn. So the next week I got on LinkedIn, and it really drove home that like I need to start working within my industry, because these people are going to support me and really help me grow to where I want to be as a brand. It's not always all about the consumers. It's kind of really about growing your network and kind of like leaning on people for support when you need it. So since CHFA, it's been great to build my professional network in that capacity. I've been having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, cool. It's can you come preach that for Green Fresh? It's like literally what we try to tell everybody. And you know, big brands to small brands, right? It's there's communication that you need to be making to the trade, right? Because there's retailers there's store managers on LinkedIn, there's the whole ecosystem is there. And the way you would communicate your brand on Instagram or TikTok is so different than how you need to communicate it on LinkedIn.
Different.
They want to know the journey, the struggles. They want to know the story about your friend not enjoying the product, and then you listen and rechange the formula. Like that stuff excites them. And then you'd be surprised. You could get a listing at your goal retailer, let's say Whole Foods, and then that store manager listened to that story, listened to this podcast, and he's like more energetic about putting it on shelf, adding it on an end cap or whatever, right? Those little things. And Canada's so small, right? It's big in geography, but small in population. The industry's so small that those little things. So I think more brands need to listen to that. But
this is such a fun industry that we're in, because truly everybody wants to help you succeed. Like, I mean, I don't know if this is different from other industries, but I mean, like, there's not one time I've met somebody where they're not excited for you, or that they have like a network that they want you to meet. Like, they're just so welcoming to like helping you grow and like sharing their resources. And I think building that network has just propelled our growth so much, because we've been able to meet the right people, right? And we wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't take like building my network through LinkedIn seriously. So it's been really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Any cool stories so far? Interesting stories, hiccups along the way, supply chain, pricing, anything that you can share?
Tons of stories. So our product is definitely more of a premium product. I prize myself on really finding the best ingredient supplier. So all of our ingredients are extremely high quality. We work with Rue Tree down in Burlington for co-packing and printing our packaging. So they run on green energy, which is really important to me. The last thing I wanted to do was kind of come into this industry and create another product that's going to end up in the landfill or create a really big,
love that.
A really big footprint. So that's been a really exciting point for me. But being a premium product it can be hard to sell into retail. So our servings go for $9.99. So it's like everybody kind of looks at that price, and like we do have such a loyal customer base, but sometimes like that price can scare people because they don't really realize what they're getting. So that's where social media really comes into play, because I'm able to share my story every day and really back up why our product costs this much. And of course we're a new business, so we can only do the minimum production run. So I'm sure like as we grow, we will be able to save costs there and bring down our overall MSRP. But so that's been a challenge that we've been had, is I just show up and I'm like, it's worth it, trust me. And then once they give it a shot, they're converted. We have a really amazing conversion rate, which I'm very proud of. But yeah, I don't know. There's something really exciting that's in the works for Beck's Broth now. So up until this point, or a couple of months ago, it's always been me. I've been doing every single role in the business. And then so about right before CHFA last year, before I got married, one of my friends reached out to me and he asked if he could help out in any way in Beck's Broth. And so we brought him on as like kind of our brand strategist. He was helping build all these social media posts. He was really creating like our overall look and feel. And that helped so much. And that really allowed me to kind of crack myself open and like trust people when it comes to like letting people into the business. Like I was so protective of it before, and I was kind of putting myself in a box. So he's been doing such a great job these past few months. And then one of my best friends just recently asked if she could become partner to the business as COO. So that has been such an exciting process. We're on month 3 of really trying to figure out what we want that to look like. So we hired a mentor to help us kind of navigate our way through this process. And it has been the best 3 months of the business so far. It's been so excited to finally trust somebody enough and make waves every single day just working with somebody. So it's been awesome.
They say brands that have multiple founders, not too many founders, are more likely to succeed. So I hope that works out, and that's exciting, right? Bringing somebody along for the ride, but it also speaks volumes to you of letting your guard down and entrusting multiple people early on.
And I think that's a really special thing that I noticed about myself becoming like a food founder is I really lead with my intuition all of the time. Anybody who's heard me speak with my gut, exactly. And it adds to that story. It's like I trust people fully, completely. I have a really great sense of intuition, and I often I go by vibes. Let's just say. I mean, like I know when something is right. And the partner that I just brought on, she is everything that I'm not. Like we are complete. Like she has these wild strengths that are my exact weaknesses, and vice versa. So we just work so well together because she is so wildly smart and productive, and we're just soundboards to each other every single day. So I'm so excited to see where this journey takes us.
That's awesome. I've talked with someone in the bone broth space before, and we got into conversation about like the bones and the creation of the bone broth, right? It's pretty crazy how much bones you need.
It's crazy.
Right? Like I was like, holy crap! Like this guy he was talking about like truckloads of bones.
Yeah. So I'm lucky now. So right now with our new product, so with the powdered bone broth, so we're actually importing that from New Zealand. So
Awesome.
which is really nice because before when we were doing the liquid product, I was just in the kitchen for so many hours trying to make this bone broth by myself. And it's greasy, it's hot, it's heavy. I mean, like I was exhausted by the end of the day. Like my body was breaking down in front of me because I was trying to lift all of these bones and like all of these jugs of water. And like, it's just hard work. It's not easy. So that was just another thing where it was like, I can't do this forever. Like maybe one day we'll make our own bone broth powder, which would be incredible. But right now there's not the manufacturing in Canada. When we were trying to make this product, I really did a lot of research to try and figure out how I can make the bone broth powder here, so we can really do it all. And just the machinery that you need, it wasn't available to us. So right now, we're just importing it from New Zealand, which I'm really excited about, just because there's such high quality pastures over there. I wasn't able to find the powder bone broth that stood up to my quality over here in North America, which was a little upsetting. But I'm really happy with the direction that we went with that.
Well, I think New Zealand is the best option if you can't find in Canada, right? It's, the best collagen comes from New Zealand, the best protein comes from New Zealand, right? So you're in good company.
Which is why we have the high MSRP on this.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming a long way. What does 2024 look like for you and for the business?
Yeah, so 2024 is going to be an extremely exciting year for us. We're hoping to launch a third SKU by spring. We want to say we really want to try and launch it by spring. We just finalized the recipe, so now we're just trying to pull funding together to create like the packaging and whatnot, and learning how we really want to execute that. So we're going to have a new SKU. We just recently started exporting to the States direct to consumer through our e-commerce site, which has been very exciting just to see all of these orders come in. Like last night we got one from like South Carolina for like $400. So it's crazy to see that, because it's like, oh, someone in South Carolina knows who we are. It's a surreal moment every time. And then also we really want to start working with, we want to grow even more in retail and start working with a broker and a distributor that fits our needs. So that's where we've been really trying to put our focus on lately. Is we have the buzz around us right now. We're growing so quickly. And right now, 80% of our business is direct to like customers through our e-commerce site. And we're growing in retail. So we're kind of like growing out beyond my own capacity to manage all of these expectations from like the stores that we're in. So it would just be really great to find, a great partner that can help us.
Yeah, no, it's
that land.
It's insane. And someone was bringing this up at this conference I was at this week about the ability for brands to scale outside of their geography like 100 times faster than ever before. Like if you launched this product in the 90s or early 2000s, that would never happen.
Totally.
Right? And then you can take that data before you even launch into the US market, right? You have so much information on your consumer, and the fact that they're willing to pay, a premium price plus shipping. I don't know if you gave free shipping or whatever, but there's a whole story you can tell back in when you're presenting to a retailer, like, look, there's people buying this stuff all over the place.
Totally.
Like there's a place on your shelf for it. And that's why I love the D2C first approach. And there's economics involved, right? It's very cost effective for you to do that. If you went retail first and then backwards, it's like you could get into a sticky situation.
Yeah, we wanted to build our story for sure and make sure
you have so much information on your consumer. And like the first thing a retailer is going to say is like, it's too expensive, but it's not too expensive because we got, X, Y, and Z buying it, subscribing to buy it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's interesting. Do you have any like exciting retailers you're trying to go after, like a dream retailer that, they could be listening to this podcast? I know some of them do. They compliment it all the time.
I think our next dream retailer, there's a couple out there for sure, but definitely Healthy Planet. Like we've had some conversations with Monica in the past. I actually met her at CHFA. So Monica, if you're listening, I still went into your store. But I do know a lot of the stores that we're looking to get into, they really want to work with a distributor. They're working with hundreds of brands, right? So it's really hard to juggle when the brand goes directly to the buyer. So yeah, Healthy Planet, Goodness Me, Whole Foods. Like we're ready to grow, and we're really excited to grow. And there's just such a healthy buzz behind us now where I'm just not ready to slow down anytime soon. So those are probably our top 3 stores that we're looking to get at within this year.
I love that. You touched on, you brought on someone to really help you with, the branding to the consumer, social media and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about, that approach and what approach you're taking?
Yeah. So his name's Michael, one of my best friends, and he's just so savvy when it comes to navigating like tech and like graphic design, which is definitely not something that I have in my wheelhouse. Like I really have, like I can think about the direction I want to go into, especially when it comes to like photo shoots and whatnot. Like I have that vision, but like executing that when it comes down to like a digital landscape, I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. Like tech frustrates me so much. So I really just let him take on full control, and he has so many brilliant ideas. So like we meet, I mean, like we talk every single day, but so we'll kind of go through the calendar, figure out like what kind of strategy we want to explore like in the next couple of weeks on social, and he'll just whip together the most brilliant campaigns where it's like, whoa, I was not expecting any of this, and every single time he blows me away. So it's like just trusting him to make to know that like he has this aspect of it covered. It has taught me so much, and just being like, okay, like you don't always need to have full control. Let somebody else kind of hone in on their craft. And it's been so fun because our following absolutely loves to see that type of work. Like they just think it's fun to see that type of work. Like they love our product photography, but when it comes to like the digital graphics and everything that's going on there, it's just really fun. So I've been loving that.
And I think that'll translate into success when you do get the opportunity to formally sit down and talk about listing at Healthy Planet or Whole Foods, right? I don't think brands or founders give themselves enough credit. Mm-hmm. Like I would almost bring him to a meeting. And like, if he has that excitement, like maybe he's too techie, but if he has that like excitement that can be seen through him, bring him to the meeting, right? There's like, idea. How do you stand out, right? Because everyone goes into a meeting with the buyer, and here's my product, here's my story. And it, outside of that, they're not getting a lot, right? So finding ways to break through. And I like that story because I like that you've been able to create this really cool network of people around you. They all serve a area of expertise, but how do you tell that story, or how do you get that energy to Monica? Because she's your first, line of defense to the shelf, right? So you gotta impress her, or whoever else you're getting in front of.
Yeah, no, that's a very great call.
What advice would you give someone that's trying to create something so new?
I mean, definitely have a clear vision. I mean, it's so easy to get distracted with the way that process is, but I mean, sometimes when we're not staying clear to our true vision, like that's where we like segue and go off in a really funny direction. So just knowing where you want to end up and just making progress every single day. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, which is something that you said earlier. It's just like, as long as you can check a couple of boxes each and every day, you're going to get there eventually. It might seem so far in the future, but I think you'll really surprise yourself on how quickly the industry moves along. So if you're passionate and you know that's where you want to end up, like you'll get there sooner than you think. So I always just say like leap and the net will appear. I mean, things are scary when you haven't done them yet. But then as soon as you do them, you realize that fear absolutely dissipates, and then it becomes like manageable. And then you can be like, oh my God, did I just do that? Like there's been so many times where we're still bootstrapping our business. We've gotten lucky with a couple of amazing like grants and like loans over the past like year. But we haven't taken on any investment yet. And every single time, I think we've gotten like probably 3 grants now, and one, what I call is like my big girl loan. But every time like that happens, it's like, whoa, like I was so scared of this money. And now that we have it, I know that there's so much more room to play, and it's going to push us along further. So don't be scared of the investment that you're going to have to put into the business, because when you start a business, it's almost like your relationship with money changes. I often say like my personal life, like if I go out and I spend like say $150 on like a nice dinner, I'm kind of like, oh my God, that was so expensive. And then on a Sunday, I'm spending $5,000 on cardboard. I'm like, with not even sweating about it. So like my relationship with money has shifted completely, but it's just because I'm not scared of it anymore. Like I have so much trust in myself that the business is going to succeed. And since I have trust in myself, like I just know it will happen. So I just try and let all of that fear roll off my back and just try and push push further every single day.
I love that example because it's so true. It's like, oh, I can't buy this. It's like, another, whatever, another dinner. I can't go out tonight or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like, here's a credit card for 10 grand or whatever.
It's crazy.
Without even blinking an eye.
Yeah.
Are you attending CHFA in Vancouver?
We are, and we just heard that we were pre-accepted to become like a finalist on the Launchpad competition again, because we competed in September in Toronto. So we'll be up pitching in front of the judges again.
Didn't you win?
We didn't win, but I learned a lot, and it created so much buzz around Beck's Broth again. Like, people were so kind, like coming up to me afterwards. It was the first time I've ever done a public speaking event. So, and I went up there alone. My brand strategist was actually at the exhibit trying to set up my expo. So I was in the room alone. I was sitting in the crowd before I was like got up on that stage. I had my headphones in, like my binaural beats, and I was doing like a meditation. I was like, do not like piss your pants. Like, I was so nervous. I got up on the stage, and the first thing I said to everyone, I was like, oh my gosh, like, can you guys see my lip quivering? I'm so nervous. And like, everybody was just so nice. They came up to my booth afterwards and was like, you didn't seem nervous at all. Like, your voice was very clear, and I learned so much from that pitch competition. So now I'm excited for the next one in Vancouver, where I can actually bring my partner along with me. So I think I'll feel a bit more safe going into that.
Yeah, because it's not like you're just presenting to consumers.
Yeah.
Right, that don't know anything.
They're
right?
all
Those are like the
professionals,
peers,
yeah.
professionals of the
Yeah.
industry. It's like, no, that's daunting.
It's so
For sure.
scary. And like, my thing is, I lead with my intuition, like good vibes. Like, that's like how I lead business. So when it comes to numbers talk, like, of course, like all my numbers are aligned. Everything, the back end is good. But when I need to talk about it, sometimes that's when I'm like, so my partner, I think she's going to be there and really have my back, because when it comes to numbers, it's like, I go like blank. It's like, if I have my spreadsheets, I know my numbers, but telling them out in front of people, like, that's where I get very nervous. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this pitch competition.
Do you know your booth number yet?
Not yet. It's in my email somewhere, but numbers, I'm not good at them. Can't remember them.
You'll send it to me and I'll put
will.
it in the notes.
Yeah, we're gonna be
in
Incubator Alley again. So
Nice.
yeah, you can find us there.
Nice. And then if somebody wants to try the product, go to the website.
Yeah, go to the website. We have free shipping over $50. And then, or also just send me a message on Instagram or my email. I feel like I'm still the one behind the Instagram. I love that community so much. So I feel like that's like part of my full-time job, is just interacting with everybody. But yeah, I feel like once you try the product, you're going to instantly fall in love. Just being able to get the 15 grams of protein in with your morning coffee. I mean, there's just such a smart solution. So
I love that. And then you mentioned you're in a few retailers.
yes.
What are those?
Yeah, so we just, in the Toronto area, we just sold into Summerhill Market and Coco Market. I'm from Kitchener, so we're in most of the small independent grocers up there. So we're in like Fiddleheads, we're in Market Fresh and Guelph.
Was that you going in, selling in, and then buying direct?
Yeah, so like my first store, actually, when I was trying to sell the jar product, I went into like Dars and Alora.
With the jar?
With the jar. And I knew her from high school. I was friends with her son. And I just went in and I was like, hey, like, Dar, like, you're my first store I've reached out to. Like, can you sell my product? And she's like, oh, like, do you have it inspected by like the health agency or the health inspector? And I was like, no, I don't. So she's like, hey, come back to me when that's done. So I was like, okay. So all the stores, we're in about 40, a little over 40 stores now. And all of them I've just reached out to, or they're catching on that buzz about the Beck's Broth. And they're like, we need this in our store. Like, our customers are going crazy for it. So yeah, it flies off the shelf quick. So they're all pretty impressed.
It's funny, if you did that, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, you could have got it.
Probably.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's how like the first kombucha and stuff was like on shelf. It was in like no label, the SCOBY floating around. Like, I don't know, this is like okay, but we're going to try it at whatever dollar, whatever price point. Yeah. But have you done demos and you're doing like a lot of grassroots stuff with some of those stores? Yeah,
so we try and be in store at least once a week for a store demo. So I'm lucky enough, I have a co-op student named Tanya. So she's amazing at store demos. I'll try and go in at least like once a month myself, because I love like getting to know the store manager, getting to know the staff, and like educating them on the product. Like, that's where I thrive. I love meeting new people and sharing that excitement. And that's what sells the product. I mean, like, just knowing the founder behind the product, I feel like that's just such an easy like win. It goes instantly in their cart as soon as they kind of hear that passion. So yeah, we try and really go into demos at least like once or twice a week.
Have you had maybe some really good positive demo experiences and maybe one negative? Some of the negative ones are funny.
All of them are pretty much positive, except for like the negative. It's like, especially when I was in the farmer's market. So I was in the farmer's market for 2 years before we really moved towards this shelf stable product. And just like some people just have no filter at all. Like they won't even try the product and they're looking at me like, this is like, that's disgusting. Like those two things should not be mixed.
They don't realize you're the founder at the time.
Totally.
And then you're like, I started this
I was
business.
like, this is mine.
This is my
like,
life.
They're like, oh, like this still sucks. And I was like, oh, like there's just no filter. So it taught me a lesson like in my personal life where it's like always have that compassion because you don't know who you're speaking to. Yeah. Like they just be acting normal, not thinking about the comment that they said, but it's like I'll be thinking about that for weeks after. And like it can just make you so emotional. So it's just always be kind to people because everybody's feelings matter for sure. So starting a business that is unique. I mean, like there's so many things that can almost like make you not want to move forward. So you need to build a thick skin because not everybody is going to love your product, but the people that are going to love your product are going to really vouch for you. But of course, not everybody is there. But we're lucky we don't have those experiences often. It's just the one out of like the 20 really kind of break your heart.
I feel like your product, when I tried it at CHFA, I was like, I don't know why I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, I don't know what this is going to taste like because I know what bone broth tastes like. I know what like hot chocolate tastes like. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. And then I'm just like, this is great. Yeah. This is delicious. Right. And
your brain's
it's
not
kind of exactly what I thought it was going to taste like, but I was nervous.
Yeah.
Right. So no, it's exciting times and congratulations on what you've been able to do so far. I'm excited to watch the journey. And I would say to anybody listening to the podcast, if you're in Healthy Planet, if you're in Whole Foods, go ask your store manager, do you sell Beck's broth? Because those little nudges from some of those key people in stores, sometimes we've done that where I'll like go in, like I know I'm presenting to a retailer and I'll go into a few stores and, push it forward a little bit. But if you're there, ask for it because it's either not there yet, it's going to be there soon.
It will be there soon. And then you can be a part of our success story. So
yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I had a lot of fun. I hope I get to keep these.
You do,
because I'm going to try them tonight. My wife's going to be really happy.
Absolutely.
And I wish you all the luck and success in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kyle.